Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. All right, so today I'm going to be painting Spring Buck, and I'm sipping on some mango tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. All right, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, deep yellow, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, Mars black, fluorescent purple, green oxide, and fire red. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 4 round synthetic brush, and I have a number 1 bristle fan brush. And I'm just going to call them out as I use them. I'll probably call this one large and this one small, and then this one I'll probably call my fan brush. But again, I'll call them out, and of course you can switch up your tools if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you can purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, or the brushes or the supplies. I have a shop, I have my shop linked down below so you can explore the different art materials that I have and supplies. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. All right, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my medium or my small round, my 4 round, to demonstrate a custom color on how to mix it, because I'm going to be pre-mixing myself a light yellow color that's going to be the dominant color throughout this background. We'll also be using, so I'll be using yellow and white to create that color. I'm also going to be using brown and black to create a gradient in the background, so I have some nice dimensional elements to start the painting process with. So I have pre-mixed myself my light yellow color, which is on my palette right here. How I got to this was a whole bunch of white and then just a little bit of my yellow. The yellow will very easily take over and make it really, really yellow, and I'm just going for kind of a light pastel yellow type of a color. You could certainly go for any soft beige, yellowy type of color that you'd like. My deep yellow has a little bit, it steers a little bit towards the orange side, so when I add white to it, it comes out to be this nice kind of pastel, soft yellow color. So that's going to be the dominant color that I'm going to use, and then I'll also be using my brown and my black to create my gradient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up at the top of my canvas with both my light yellow and brown on my brush at the same time, about equal parts of both. And then I'm just going to go back and forth, left to right. I think I want a little bit more brown than that, just to create this kind of darkness at the top of my sky. I'm just using a left to right brush stroke. I don't need to use any fancy brush stroke right now, because we're going to do a second layer on this whole thing with different colors in a little bit, but this is just going to get us our base coat. So now I'm not going to wash my brush, but I'm going to pick up my light yellow color, and I'm going to get it to blend in or up into that darker area up at the top, and you can just give it a full kind of left to right broad brush stroke in order to get it to blend in. And then as I come down in this area, I'm just going to keep picking up my light yellow color. And you'll notice as I come down the canvas, the brown will work its way off of my brush. So this will become more of that light yellow color as I come down. And I'm going to come down almost halfway down my canvas, and then I'm going to introduce white into this gradient. So this is almost halfway down, maybe a little bit more in through here. And you can still see I still have a little bit of the brown releasing itself off of my brush, which is fine. So that's good. Now I'm going to pick up white paint on my dirty brush, and I'm going to get this nice light section in through this middle area. It doesn't have to go all the way white. We will also be doing some little modifications to this as well, but this is going to give us that almost morning misty type of look off in the distance in those hills that we'll be painting. I think I want a little bit more lightness coming right in through here, so I just added a little bit more white in through there. That's looking pretty good. And then as I come down here, what I'm going to start to is pick back up that light yellow color. So again, without washing my brush, I just picked up that light yellow color. And again, I still see some of that brown coming off of my brush. So this is how I create these nice dimensional type of gradients where I don't wash my brush, but I have a way of releasing colors that are within that brush as I go through the process. You might not have had any more of the brown left on your brush, which is totally fine. So your colors will be a little bit different than mine, which is great. That's what makes your painting yours and my painting mine. And then when I get down to about, I would say the 3/4 way mark, or have about a quarter of the way left on the bottom of my canvas, I'm going to pick up brown paint without washing my brush, and I'm going to start to get the bottom of my canvas to go really dark. I don't need it to, again, blend perfectly. This is just going to help me with getting these dimensional elements on as I build the details to my painting. And then this last section down below, I'm just going to pick up black paint, and I'm going to get this bottom to be very dark. So again, don't worry about the blend being perfect, because we're going to add a whole bunch of details on top of this that will allow it to work its way into each other and make it look nice and natural. And then I just go back and forth, left to right. I'm not going to bring this up too high because I want to maintain the lightness in through here. So if you have black on your brush, don't keep blending up because you'll make that whole upper area dark. So just kind of go in through here. And if you do need to do more blending in through here, just wash and dry your brush. And then we're going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry your large bristle brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be finishing the sky, finishing the back hills, and we're going to put our base coat on the foreground land, the grassy stuff, grassy flowery ground. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but again, I'm going to use my number 4 round to create a custom plum color that we'll be using throughout this step. So the colors that I'm going to use on this step are purple, black, white, light yellow, and my green oxide, and maybe some brown as well. So what I'm going to first do is create my custom color, which is going to be a plum type of a color, which I've already done on my palette here. This is the color that I'm going for right here. How I got to this color was I initially used black and white to make a medium to dark gray color. Just get that going here, maybe a little bit darker than that. And then once I've got this medium to dark gray tone, I add my purple to it. And you could get this to be any shade of this plummy type of color that you'd like. I think I need more purple. I'm going to have to get more purple for a future step. There we go. Oh, I just picked up some white too. It's all right. I'll just get this to go together. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I'm just going for this so I can have a nice complementary color throughout the painting. So I have different tones of the purple through the flowers and the tree and the sky, and it all is harmonious throughout the design of the composition. So this is the color I'm going for here. Once you've got that color, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating finishing my sky with a little bit of this plum color up at the top, maybe having a couple of drifting clouds going by. I'm going to have my sky coming almost halfway down my canvas, and then we're going to lay on top of the horizon. We'll put some distant hills, and then we'll start the texture for our grass. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to pick up my plum color, and I'm going to start up at the top of my canvas. So you're going to see some of your previous color underneath here, which is the whole intent. So you can have a nice layered type of sky. Once you've got it down as far as you want it, I've got mine down maybe a fifth of the way, something like that. I'm going to start picking up my light yellow on my dirty brush. And this is where these colors are going to start to blend in together. Maybe I want there to be a little bit of a cloud going by, so I could take my remnants on my brush and just kind of scumble or rub them on throughout that sky. And then I just can keep picking up that light yellow to create this pretty nice, soft kind of morning type of a sky. You could certainly, if you get to a point where that purple is not coming off your brush and you really want to get back to that yellow type of a color, you could certainly wash and dry your brush. So I feel like I don't want this purple to taint the entire sky, so I'm going to wash and dry my brush because I feel like I have a little bit too much purple on there. So I washed and dried my brush. Now I'm going to pick up some of that yellow color and just get this to blend in. You could do circular type of brush strokes. You could do this kind of crisscrossy type of brush stroke that you see me doing a lot. I'm just kind of rubbing this in so it softens it up and makes it so I don't have any spots that look too dry or unfinished. That's looking pretty good in my opinion. So I'm going to move down towards that horizon line. That's pretty good. Picking up some more of my light yellow, and in a minute I'm going to start picking up my white again, just so I can get a nice bright horizon line. You could make it look like there's actual sunrise or sunset if you wanted to. I'm just making mine giving the illusion of one or the other, and I'm not going to have the sun evident. It's going to be kind of off to the side. So I just picked up some white paint. I'm bringing it pretty heavy down towards where I want this horizon line to go. So something like this. And you can make it the white brighter or taking up a larger area on one side of the canvas. That's going to give the illusion that that's where the sun is. So if you want to create that type of illusion, that's an easy way to do it. So that's looking pretty good to me. So now without washing my brush, I'm going to start on my back hills. So as I'm doing these, I don't want them to come too far down my canvas because I want to just make sure that I save room for my landscape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a couple of markers. I'm going to pick up some brown paint on my dirty brush. I'm going to find myself about the halfway marker on my canvas on the left-hand side, and then I'm going to go up from that about an inch, inch and a half, make myself a little bit of a marker. Then I'm going to come down. If this is halfway, if this is about quarter way, I'm about an inch, inch and a half above that, somewhere in through here. So I have two markers over here on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, I'm going to go, I would say, maybe a little bit higher than halfway, so maybe almost where this one is, make a mark. I'm going to come down from that, maybe about 2.5, 3 inches, make another mark. So this will tell me don't go past here as I'm doing this. So now what I've got is a little bit of brown paint and my remnants of my previous colors on my brush. I'm going to go at this top line and give myself this really kind of messy type of, I'm just kind of almost tapping the canvas like this. So I've got some dark spots at the top of this horizon line. I am going into wet paint, and I'm also got different colors on my brush. So this is going to give me a multi-tone type of kind of horizon line in through here. I'm just kind of rubbing it down just a little bit so it almost blends into this light area, and that's going to create almost like a foggy type of mist in these back hills because I have it so light in through here. If you didn't get the lightness like I did down in through here, you could certainly pick up some white or some lighter tones. You could even add more brown to your brush if you wanted a couple of these areas to be a little bit darker up at the top. You could just stick a little bit more brown on your brush and just kind of tap in some little dark marks. So that's going to be the back one. Then I'm going to do another uneven line like this. I'm going to start maybe just a smudge below this marker in through here. I'm going to use brown. I want it to look like it's coming closer to the viewer. So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown and do the same thing, but then I'm going to incorporate some of the plum color as well as a little bit of green, and I can bring this down just a little bit more. And you can see I'm not doing a super even line because I want there to be some diversity in what I'm doing here. And so I want it to look pretty organic and natural. So I've got that on there with that darker tone. Now I'm going to, without washing my brush, I'm going to pick up just a tiny bit of the plum color, and you can start to incorporate that a little bit more towards the top than coming down too much with it, just more towards the top like this. Maybe a little bit more on my brush to bring it in over here. I'm also going to pick up right now a teeny tiny bit of green paint without washing my brush. So just a little bit of green. So what this is going to do is it's going to pull this landscape towards the viewer and bring it more in focus because I'm putting more colors in it. So I just picked up a little bit more green, just kind of tapping this in along the top or, you know, along some of these little areas in through here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more kind of little area kind of in here just with the remnants of my brush. I just picked up just a little bit more green paint, just give myself just the hint of a couple more little treetops before I get into my my foreground. So this is looking pretty good. And again, you could certainly add more to it if you wanted. I wanted mine to really look like it was just kind of very misty and stuff off in the distance. So that's why I opted to really have a nice light background behind it. I'm digging that. So I'm going to start my foreground. I'm going to pick up some of that plum color. And I'm going to start right up in this area, up in through here, and this is going to connect to this marker in through here. So this is, I'm going to tap this as opposed to rubbing it like I was doing before. So this is just tapping my brush, so I'm getting a more textured look to it as opposed to a little bit smoother in the background. So this is just the plum is where I'm starting with this. And I wanted to take on some of these colors underneath, which is why I'm not using a lot of paint. I'm just using a very little bit of paint. As I come down my land, I'm going to start picking up some green, and then I'm going to finish it up with, so I'm going to be using a combination of my plum, green, brown, and black as I get towards the bottom. So right now I'm with some plum. I'm going to pick up a teeny bit of green paint, and I'm just kind of tapping this in. This is where my grass texture is going to start. I'm not overdoing it. I'm hardly using any paint. I'm really just looking to start the textural element of my grass and my flower area. I just picked up some more of my plum, and I'm just going to keep kind of alternating these colors, and this is going to lay out the foundation of where my flowers go, where I'm going to see more flowers versus more grass, because I'm going to have them intermingling with one another. And then as I come down towards this bottom, I'm going to pick up some green, maybe a little bit of brown, because I want it to go darker as it's coming down towards the base of my canvas. So that'll make it look like it's a little bit more in the shadowy area. And again, plum, brown, green, those are the colors that I'm alternating back and forth in this bottom area. So you can certainly make yours look similar to mine or different than mine. You could even do different colors. If you wanted your flowers to be white flowers, you could use maybe a lighter gray color, but again, try not to overpaint and get rid of all of that darkness underneath, the darkness is going to tone this paint. So even though I'm using the same colors down here as I did up here, it's going to appear darker down here than up there because of the black underneath it. But by the same token, I don't want to get rid of all of that black. So as I'm going through this process, I am still just kind of lightly dotting it in order to allow for that black to show through and help to tone that and give it some texture. And that's all I'm going to be doing for this step. I will be using my piece of chalk for the next step. So once you've got yours done, you can certainly make any little modifications you want. I feel like I want a little bit more on my green tree into here. And then you can put this brush away, take out a drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to draw an outline for our deer. I'm going to be using my piece of chalk to draw my outline. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I do recommend, again, that your canvas is dry before you start this step because it's always easier to draw on a dry canvas than it is to draw on a wet canvas. So I'm going to guide you through a series of markers and basic shapes, and by the time we're done, hopefully we'll have something that resembles the outline of a deer that's kind of looking backwards to us. It's going to probably look a little funny in the drawing stage because until we put the paint on it and the contours of the rear end and the tail, it might look a little funky the way that it is. But it's going to come out wonderfully by the time we're done. So we're not going to do any fine-tuned detail. We're just going to do a nice basic outline so we can have that to utilize during the coloring in process of painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself the center of my canvas, top to bottom, left to right. So for me, that's right about in through here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down from that about an inch and over to the right about an inch. This is going to represent my first marker, but it's in a light area, so I'm going to use a dark chalk for you guys to see it. So there's going to be my first marker. What I'm going to do from here is I'm going to make myself about a 3 to 3.5 inch circle in this area. So what you can do is you can kind of come directly below here about 3.5 inches, somewhere, for me, it's somewhere in this vicinity. And then you can kind of mark about halfway in between those two. Again, I'll switch so you can see what the color, and then you can use anything that you want as a measuring tool. So I'm going to use my small brush to show you what I'm talking about. So I can measure from the top of this to the bottom like that. Now I know, because yours probably might not be exactly the same size as mine, and I have my center mark here. So I can just take and straddle my brush across that, or I could take it from the center and go like that, and then make as many markers at that same distance away from that center point as I want. And then what I can do is once I've got some markers that are at the same distance away from that center point, I can just connect them, and I'm going to have something that resembles a circular type of shape. So this is just kind of a quick way to get yourself a circular type of shape without having to measure, or without having to do any making it perfect, just kind of giving you a general idea of that shape. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the back half of the animal's body. So I'm going to come at about the center of this circle in through here, and I'm going to go to the left just a little bit and maybe down, I would say about at almost 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to create just this two kind of, these are going to be the inside of the back legs like that. They're going to disappear in the grass, so don't worry about making them too long. But to give you an idea of how long they are, they're almost, they're about half of the distance of the circle. So take the half distance of the circle and make them about that long. That'll guide you. And then I'm going to go to the left of this one just a little bit, like this, and I'm going to connect this up in through here. So it's going to be something like that. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to see more of the animal's body on the right-hand side. So I'm going to actually take this out from about the halfway point, bring it down like this, cross it back in through here, and then back like that. That'll be my back two legs. And you could, if you wanted to, bump out a little bit more of the rear end in through here, but we can do that with paint as well. going to put the front leg on somewhere right about in through here. Just bring myself down a couple of lines and make them a little bit higher up on the canvas than these two. So that'll put the animal at an angle. I'm going to now put the neck and the head on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself another little circle somewhere in this vicinity. So this circle is about, let's measure it so I can give you a good representation. It's a little bit less than half the the size of this one. So if this is this wide, make it just a measurement a little bit shorter than that, and that'll be about the size of that circle. And the bottom of it is just a little bit taller than here. And the right side of it, let's see where I've got my right side, kind of lines up perfectly with the right side of this circle here. Then I can connect here to here. Let me actually use a darker chalk on this circle so you can see it on top of that light area. So this is that circle there. I can connect here to here, and then I'm going to connect this front part to way down here. So I can just take this, cross it over like this. This is the chest area. I'll give you a little white chalk in through here. We're going to have all kinds of colored chalk on this one. And then I just need a little nose part. So I'm just going to give a little bump in through here. This, it'll look better when we paint it in, but something like that. Give you just a little white down here so we can see it. I'm going to put some ears on. So I'm going to have these ears come in. They're pretty big ears on a deer. So something like this will give me one ear. And then I've got the other one kind of, oh, we need some white. It makes it challenging on these different color surfaces. We've got another ear in through here. So I'll give you like that. And then I've got some antlers. Have fun with these antlers. You can make them as big or as small as you want. I'm going to have this really with a lot of points on the antlers. I'm not making them the width that they're going to be at the end. I'm just kind of giving myself an idea of where I want the antlers to go. So somewhere like that. And then this one I'm going to have coming way up in through here. You can have yours whatever which way that you want. Let's see, I think I want one kind of coming up like that. And then thinking, I think I want one kind of coming off of here too, of this guy in through here. And then that's looking pretty good. I think that's all I need to do for that. And then we're going to be using our round brush. I'm going to be using my number 6 round brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your drawing utensil away or make any little adjustments that you feel might be necessary. Get out your medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat on our deer and our tree with the tree trunk and the branches. I'm going to be using my number 4 round. The colors I'm using are black, brown, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix myself a dark brown color, and I'm going to be using that for all of these objects. So I have pre-mixed it on my palette. This is the color I'm going for here. How I got to this color was I used a bunch of my burnt umber, a tiny bit of black. The black will easily turn my burnt umber black if I'm not careful. So just a teeny tiny bit of my black and just a teeny tiny bit of white, because white will make it light really fast. So I'm in essence taking my burnt umber and I'm adding a dark gray color to it in order to get this nice dark brown tone, which will have some pretty good opacity because I've added the black and the white to it, and it is going to turn out a little bit darker than my burnt umber when it's dry. So this is the color I'm going for right in through here. And once I've got my color that I want, I'm just going to paint in my deer. So I don't need to do any fancy brush stroke at this point because I know that we're going to be adding another layer on top of it. I'm going to kind of reshape this rear end a little bit. It's too round for me, so I'm just going to kind of bring out a little bump in through there and then just bring this down in through here just so it's not so perfectly round. I like things that are kind of organically shaped. And then I'm just kind of bringing this down here. You can kind of tap the paint on. You can just paint it in a solid coat. It's not going to really matter at this point. The only thing that I am going to be cautious about doing is making those edges not super duper clean, especially when it comes to like the rear end and in that that chest area, because I feel like a deer of this size might have a little bit of extra fur. So what I'm going to do also is leave myself in certain areas, especially like these legs, I might leave a little bit of my chalk mark showing, so that way I don't accidentally make my legs too big. I do have a tendency to go outside of my markers or my guidelines, and once my guidelines are gone, I don't know where they were. So if I'm going through the painting process, I might end up making my animal or whatever larger. Right in this circle area in through here, I am going to leave a little bit of the evidence of that line as well, so I know where that rear end kind of meets the chest area, so I can have some well, I guess I don't really need to do that, but I'm going to just because I think it'll make my process a little bit easier. Just bringing this down into the grass like that. And then as I go to do the head and the chest, I'm going to leave, again, just a little bit of that area evident between the neck and the rear end. So it'll make my process easier. So I don't lose this big rump. That's why. I don't want to. So I'm going to just leave that evidence so I have an easier time. And then again, as I'm coming down this chest area, I'm just kind of rippling it or just bringing it down just a little bit so it almost looks like little fluffy pieces of fur at the bottom there. That looks pretty good. And again, I'm not concerned about my brush stroke right now. It's even going to look kind of streaky or splotchy because the paint is going to be a little bit transparent, but I'm going to slow down over here on this side so I don't screw up the shape of my face, something like that, and then just bring this down. And again, it's going to look a little funky when it is in this stage just because we just don't have the details on it. It could, take on a funny shape because we can't see where the nose is, we can't see where the eye is, so don't worry if yours looks a little funky. Just kind of, if you can get these pieces in a similar place, then you'll have a great head start. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the ears, just kind of following my outline, something like that. And these ears might be in front or behind the antlers, so don't feel that yours have to be exactly placed where mine are. And we've got this deer pretty much in the silhouette. So if you're going through yours and it doesn't come out exactly as mine or exactly as you had hoped it would be, the elements of it as we're going through the process are going to be pretty darn dark and pretty similar, so you can easily disguise something if it doesn't go perfectly right. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for my antlers and make your antlers whatever way you want. So you could have, maybe you want yours to be a female deer that does not have antlers. So if that's the case, then don't put antlers. That's going to be a personal preference on your part. I think they converge like right at the top of the head in through here. So feel free to make yours do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way up here with this one. And also don't feel that you have to follow your chalk mark. So if you're going through this process and you're saying, I think I want my antler to be placed a little bit differently, you can certainly leave some of your chalk mark and then erase the chalk after the paint has dried, and that'll give you, a way where you can modify things if you're going through this process and it's not coming out exactly how you want it, or you feel like you want it. Like I feel like I want to add another little point to my antler, so I can just kind of add it on the fly if I want to. I don't have to 100% stick with what I had originally drawn for that outline. So I think that looks pretty good. Maybe one more little guy out over on this side, and then think of these as like branches, and they don't one side doesn't have to be exactly as the other, but I do feel that they should probably be kind of pointy at the tips of the antler. So as you're going through yours, you'll see that I have mine kind of pointy at the top. I don't think that that's a mandatory thing, but I think it will help them look a little bit more natural. So that's just my opinion. You can make yours any way that you want. And then just kind of bringing this in through here like this. And then I'm going to do a similar process for my, I don't really like that one. I feel like it needs to drop a little bit more. I feel like I want to bring it down more like that. Maybe bring this up just a little bit more. So I'm going to do a similar process for my my tree. Just making this kind of look like it's weighted okay. That looks all right. So my tree, I'm going to have coming right at the edge of this land in through here. So maybe somewhere in through here is where I'm going to have the bottom of it. And again, you're going to have all kinds of grass and stuff like that that'll be able to disguise the bottom of this tree. And you can have yours as big as you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my main kind of trunk, and then I'll branch off after that. So I'm just going to kind of bring this down in through here. And I like to have my trees kind of wider at the bottom, and as they as the branches kind of branch off, I make those branches a little bit thinner. You can have any kind of tree that you want. Yours can be much different than mine. It can be very similar to mine. It's going to be all up to you how you want to build your tree. This is, you know, an imaginary tree, so you can make yours any way that you want. I'm going to have a little couple of branches kind of coming off the side and through here. And this is kind of a pretty standard way that I approach my trees if I'm making them imaginary, is I kind of go for that main trunk area first, and then I do whatever kind of branches coming off of it that I want to make, you know, it make sense in my little tree head. And then I will go ahead and fill it in with a bunch of little branches in a minute. So I think I'm going to have this kind of coming up in through here. I'm going to have this kind of going off the canvas in through here. And again, you could have yours a huge, you know, big oak tree. You could have yours a little skinny birch tree. Feel free to make yours into whatever kind of tree that you want. I am just having mine a nice blossoming spring tree with some pretty flowers on it. Maybe this is a big, you know, apple tree, or, you know, a cherry blossom tree, whatever you want yours to be. I'm going to have one branch kind of coming over in through here, so it balances my painting. So I'm going to have maybe one kind of coming out over in through here. And I'm just kind of planning. I don't need to make every single little branch exactly perfectly placed, but I want to have something in place for when I go to do my blossoms in a little while, that I know kind of where I want them all to go. So that's what I'm kind of planning right now. So that's looking pretty good. And then now I've got everything kind of in place. Maybe we'll have a cute little branch kind of coming out of the ground in through here. Just little tiny things that'll make it look a little bit more natural. There we go. And now I'm going to just fill it in with a whole bunch of little tiny branches. So if you feel that you, you know, want to switch brushes and use a smaller brush to get these little tiny branches, feel free to do so. But I don't need to, in my head, get everything perfect on these branches, because I know that I'm going to have lots of flowers and stuff on top of them. I just want it to kind of look believable. If we do have a couple of peekaboo spots that there is, I can see little branches through them and stuff. So when I do this, I'm not pressing hard. I'm just kind of using the little tip of my brush to get these little tiny branches to occur. And then you can fiddle with yours as much as you want. We're going to be using we're going to use our large brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this round medium brush away, take out your large bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be doing the base coat for the leaves on the tree, and we're going to be doing the second layer of the foreground. I'm using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are green, brown, fluorescent purple, white, and maybe a little bit of yellow. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to be doing a base coat on my tree with green and brown, because to me, when I think of a blossoming spring tree, I always think, well, those blossoms are going to turn into leaves, right? So in my head, I always tend to see green in a blossoming tree. So I'm going to start with a nice base of green and brown, and then we'll build our blossoming flowers on top of it. And then on the ground, I want there to be a lot of lightness or bright light colors right at the edge of this area, and then it's going to kind of get darker and darker, and I want to start putting in more texture for the flowers and the grass. So I'll be using my purple, white, yellow, and green for that. I'm going to start with my tree up here. So I'm going to pick up just a little bit of brown and a touch of green. I'm going to start on this left hand side because I feel that the left side would also be darker than the right side. So I'm going to just be using kind of darker tones over here on the left hand side with that brown in there. And I am dotting, which is what's called a stippling type of technique, where you just kind of dot the paint on there. I don't need to use a ton, so that's why I started over on the left-hand side, and now I'm just going to kind of let myself run out of paint as I am kind of coming towards this right-hand side. If you're totally out of paint and you feel like you definitely want some more on there, then sure, pick some more up. Like I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more green as I come over towards this right hand side, because I feel as if I was pretty much out. And you can certainly, because I'm hardly using any paint, you can tap right over those branches and you're still going to be able to see through that paint a little bit. And one of my tricks is just to not make my tree look perfect. So I definitely will allow for little bits of, peekaboo spots. I'm not using a ton of paint. I do want a little bit more up in through here, going in for a little bit more green and brown, just to make this a little bit larger up in through here. But I'm leaving some spots where you can see through that sky. I am making sure it's not too symmetrical, so I'm allowing for those, asymmetry type of appearance, maybe a little fluff out the edges of this one. That's looking pretty good to me. And then we'll let it dry and we'll add our flowers on top of it. So that's good. I'm going to now come down in through here. I am going to wash and dry my brush because I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. And I want it to be nice and light and bright up at the top. So I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to be using my fluorescent purple plus a little bit of white on my brush. So fluorescent purple and a little bit of white. And I don't need a lot because I don't want to overdo it on this step, so you can either wipe it off on your palette or tap it off on your paper towel. And I'm going to start up at the top and just kind of tap these in. So I feel like I want a little bit more white in through there, so just picked up a little bit more white. I want this top to look like it's kind of farther away than the bottom, so I'm saying to myself, these are flowers, but they're teeny tiny flowers because they're farther away. I'm searching for the edge of this piece of land, as if the deer is just coming right to the edge of maybe a little hillside. We can see through the legs, and you should bring your flowers right up to the animal or these colors. If you bump into the animal, don't worry about it, because you've got plenty of steps ahead that will finish that out. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my purple as I'm coming back, and you're going to start to see how vibrant this color is. And then as I'm coming back towards the viewer, or towards the bottom of the canvas, I will start to use a little bit more. I'm going to start picking up greens and maybe a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to start using a brush stroke that's not just dabbing. I'll start maybe pulling it up towards the bottom of the canvas. I'm going to you know, I'm adding this texture so it looks like grass and wildflowers. I just picked up some green, so I'm adding some green right around here. I don't, again, need a lot of paint. This is just to add lots of texture and give myself this fun kind of nature-oriented scene. I'm putting some more green around the bottom of this tree. I do have one final step that I'll be doing in a little while with putting the final pieces of flowers and little final touches on the grass. That's when we'll use our fan brush, but you could certainly, you know, bring this into whatever colorful place that you want. Just make sure as you're going around the animal, you've kind of accounted for all the areas that need to be accounted for and that you haven't missed any spots. And just, you know, if you feel like you want purple somewhere, put purple somewhere. If you feel like maybe you love that plum color and you want to use that more, you want a little spot of green, leave a little spot of green. I'm going to bring in some yellow in a little bit, and that's going to give it a little bit more sunshine and stuff. But right now, just kind of putting my second layer on here. In a minute, I'm going to start maybe pulling up some pieces of grass. These are going to be these are going to be my bigger flower areas that are closer to the viewer. So I'm just kind of tapping those in maybe more of a vertical type of a way. But again, I will have another step that's going to bring more detail to this, but just kind of saying maybe these are going to be like little lavender type of flowers that have some height to them. I'm going to pick up some green now and maybe put a little bush of green in through here. You could start pulling, you know, pieces of grass up if you wanted to, but I'm just kind of almost giving this like an impressionistic type of appearance at this point to get lots of texture in through here and have it feel like it's really just nice and natural. This is, I'm thinking, is going to be some little grassy stuff, so just pulling it up maybe from the bottom of my canvas, but again, not doing too much where I'm taking away from all of the texture and the dimensional elements that we had put in. So I'm really kind of using almost the corner of my brush right now to just kind of pull up some maybe longer pieces of grass that are a little bit closer to the viewer. And if you felt that you didn't have enough darkness in there at this point, you could certainly pick up a little bit of black if you wanted to. You could pick up brown if you wanted to. I'm actually going to wash, no, I'm not going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to just pick up a little bit of yellow on my brush right now. And I'm going to just kind of tap some of this in up through the top, in through here, just to give myself just a little bit more sunshiny something in that grass. Make that look like it's a little bit closer to the light source. I'm gonna, now I'm washing dry my brush. I feel like I want some little white speckles up in through there too, but I guess I could do that later. But I just washed and dried my brush, put a little bit of white paint on it. Just kind of adding some more little speckles in through here. And then I'm gonna be using, what am I going to use from next step? I'm actually going to use this same brush. No, we're going to use our small round brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this large brush away. Again, don't feel like it has to be done yet because we've got plenty. We got that one final step that's going to put little final details on it. But once you've got it this far, you can put this large brush away. If you can stop. Put this large brush away, take out your small round brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to finish our deer and the tree trunk. I'm going to be using my small round brush, this is my number 4 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, white, yellow, red, and my dark brown. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing minimal amount of detail with maximum amount of effects. So I'm going to be strategically adding some dark areas like underneath the tail, be on the back side of these legs, on the bottom side of here, on the side of, or underneath the chin. So we'll be adding black to create these dark shadows, and then and I'll do the same thing on my trunk, like some black on this left-hand side. And then I'll be adding a lighter tone of fur to create the form of these objects. I'll also use black for the eyes and the nose as well. And then we'll just add a little bit of highlights and we'll be done. So it's not gonna, we've got a good shape, and the deer and the tree are kind of silhouetted, so they're pretty dark, so we don't really have to do a ton of details. So I'm gonna start with a touch of black paint on my brush, and what I'm gonna first do is kind of give myself an outline where I want the tail to be. So this is gonna be like the center of the rear end. I'm gonna come up just a little bit from here and then give myself this kind of little outline for where the tail kind of emerges from the body. So something like this. And then what I do on the right and the left side is I'm just going to kind of rub out this darkness. You can bring this darkness right down into this little area where the legs are. Just let this darkness kind of blend out into the rest of the fur. And if this whole rear end goes black, that's totally fine. I'm picking up more black. I'm going to put some down the back side of these legs. I'm going to pick up my dark brown in a minute, but right now just kind of adding this black in through here. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to pick up that dark brown just to kind of close off the sides. So dark brown, just to kind of give myself a full coverage. This is now where I can start to get rid of my chalk marks. So again, I'm just picking up dark brown just to make sure the leg is fully painted, but I don't need to bring the black. I mean, if you made the back legs all the way black, that would totally work too. So don't feel that you have to make part of them dark brown and part of them black, because again, they're really silhouetted. So don't feel the pressure to make it look, you know, like there's anything other than a dark leg back there. I'm picking up more black paint so I can get this little leg in through here. So black paint in through here. This area right here is kind of like the belly / thigh of the deer. So I'm just putting some black in through here to separate kind of that leg from like the thigh. I'm also going to use a little bit of this black paint right in through here in order to get this little shadow at the bottom of the neck in through here, like that. I still have black on my brush. I'm going to put a little eye in through here. So a little bit to the right of the ear, somewhere in through there. I can put a tiny little, go just directly across from that, put a little tiny mark in through there for the other eye. I'm going to put a little nose in through here. They have kind of big black noses, the type of deer that I'm emulating. So you can certainly make yours whatever way you want, but that's what I'm going to do for the nose. I'm going to, before I move on to the antlers, I want to just close off some of this with my dark brown. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that dark brown. So where the black meets the fur, just kind of putting some dark brown on in through there. I will add more to this in a minute with the highlight. I wanted to make sure that I've got that black kind of blended in a little bit with the dark brown. So I just keep picking up dark brown right now. Get this. That's looking pretty good. All right. So now we're going to put highlights and stuff up at the top. But right now I'm going to pick up I wipe my brush off, picking up a tiny bit of black paint. I'm going to put a little bit underneath this ear right in through here. I'm going to put a little bit kind of inside this ear, over in through here. These ears are kind of tipped a little bit. And then I'm going to just put some on the antlers on kind of the left and bottom side of them. So I'm going to put a little bit in through here. And again, the whole animal is pretty silhouetted. So I'm just kind of streaking this down the left-hand side of these antlers. I'm going to put a little bit of a highlight on in a minute, but again, not entirely necessary to do it perfect. That's looking pretty good. This could also help you separate like the ear from the antler itself. So just little streaks here and there. I'm going to approach the trunk of the tree the same way in a second here. Once I've got this on, before I do my highlights, I'm going to move to that trunk So that looks pretty good. I got all my dark areas on. Maybe a little bit right in through here. It's this top little spot up in through here. There we go. Oh, and under the chin maybe. Right underneath this chin. I'm going to put it right in through here. So we got a little bit of shadow underneath that chin. That looks good. I'm going to move to my tree with my black on my brush. I'm going to put some over here on this left-hand side. So just kind of streaking it down that left-hand side, almost to give it like a little bark look. You could even put these little kind of pieces of silhouetted grass towards this left-hand side. That would totally make sense. Where these branches kind of meet the main trunk, you can actually put a little bit of black down the side as it's coming towards that trunk. So something like that. And I just like to do kind of messy bark, something like that. But again, I'm thinking my light source is predominantly over on that right-hand side. So I'm just taking black and kind of streaking it on the left-hand side of some of these branches. And then once I've got that, I will go back to my animal and add some highlights. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And I have made myself 2 highlight colors on my palette. So they are down here. This, I'm going to call this light brown. How I got to this is a lot of brown and just a teeny tiny touch of white. So I just want it lighter than, a little bit lighter than my burnt umber. So that'll be my light brown. And then I have this other color, which we're going to call just highlighted fur. My highlight fur. It's kind of like a peachy tan color. How I got to this was I used my dark brown plus a little bit of yellow. Let me move this so we can see it better. A little bit of yellow, a little bit of red, which makes yellow and red makes orange, and a touch of white. So I'm lightening it and adding a little bit of orange to it. I need a little bit more of red and yellow. And this is going to give me a beautiful highlighted color to add on top of that dark brown. I need a little bit more yellow and white to get it the same color that I have over here. And you, of course, yours does not have to be exactly the same color as mine. I'm just thinking of this as a light fur color that is going to allow me to add highlights without going white. So this is looking, there we go, that looks nice. Nice and highlighted color for me. So it's kind of like a light tan, peachy type of a color. So something like that. I'm going to start, I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to start with my light brown color, this color in through here, and I'm going to add little strategic highlights. So I've got them on the tail, and think of this as fur. I'm just using my brush in this little fur type of brush stroke, giving myself some texture down the exterior edges of this tail. You can certainly, I want it to be a little bit darker in the middle, so you can pick up some of your dark brown just to make sure you have it fully painted in. Pick up more of that light tan and give myself kind of a little ridge on this kind of back of the butt, maybe even down these little sides of the butt. So you can, you know, depending on what type of shape you want your animal to be in. Maybe yours is really round. Maybe you wanted yours to be a mother and it's got, you know, a pregnant belly that's kind of popping out over the side, which tend to happen a lot in the springtime, especially where I live. We have lots of pregnant mama deers around where I live. I'm putting a little bit more of this light brown down this edge in here. And again, this is now when I start to eliminate my guidelines and my, I can make any area kind of more puffy if I want it bigger, or, you know, modify my shape at all, bringing some of this just down this little thigh in through here. So this is the thigh, and then this is kind of, I would say, like the shoulder belly area of that front leg. And then, or maybe just the belly area, I guess, because that front leg would kind of be underneath it. Let's see, what else do I need to? I'm going to pull this light brown in this big neck area in through here. And this, we're painting a relatively small animal here, so I don't need as far as my paintbrush goes. It is a large animal in real life, but small on my canvas. So I'm not terribly concerned about getting every single piece of fur properly in place, but I do want it to look pretty representational. I'm going to pick up some burnt umber right now just to get a little bit better transition back here into this darker fur. I do need some right on this front leg as well, because I still see some of my chalk marks, so I just put a little burnt umber there because that leg seems to be a little bit closer to the light source. That's looking pretty good. We'll use the lighter highlight color in a minute, but I just picked up my light brown. I'm going to put some light area around the nose like this. Bring it all the way down in through here, down this bottom part. I'm going to put it on this kind of ridge, side ridge of the nose in through there, like this. That's looking good. I'm going to put some along this cheek area in through here, so you can see the form of the face is now taking shape because I just put that light area in through there and in through there. I'm going to put some of this right above the eye as well, so like this, and then up towards the forehead like this. That'll give that some good shape. You can put some maybe a little bit on the bridge of the nose in through here. I'm going to pick up some of my dark brown right now just to make sure that I've got a full coverage of paint in through here and on those cheeks. So that's pretty good. Still dark brown just to get this. I feel like I want this out just a little bit further in through here, so I just bumped that out a little bit. I'm going to put that light brown on these ears. Again, we'll be highlighting everything in a minute. Light brown. This is just getting everything in place, streaking a little bit of this light brown on the right side now of my I need to make more light brown. I'm running out. A little bit more brown and white. I'm going to put some of this light brown on the, that's too light, on the antlers. So again, opposing side from where I put the black, so it's kind of on the right side of them. And if you make them bigger along the way, like I am, it's all right. It's what's going to make them look more realistic. And of course, the antlers could be a different color than the fur. I just chose to put them in a similar color because of the light source was making them pretty dark, so I just felt like I could get away with this. Now I'm going to start using my other highlight color, this kind of peachy type of color. Give myself a little extra highlight, maybe on this little edge of the tail, maybe on this right hand side of the body where I feel it would be kind of hitting the, or catching perhaps a little bit of that light, just bringing a little bit more down this right hand side. You could certainly put it wherever you felt it would make sense to put it, and allowing for that illusion to happen that makes you, your painterly eye, happy. Putting a little bit more in through here. You could even add a touch of white to it, so I'm adding just a teeny tiny touch of white so you can see what would happen if we brightened it up a little bit. I'm going to brighten it up a little bit on the face as well, but just wanted to give you that little visual there, making it nice and full around here. And if you ever do it and it's too much, just go pick up some of your burnt umber, or which I just did, or your or the dark brown. You can keep adjusting those tones, but I'm going to pick up some more of that highlight color, put it on this nose, along the edge of this face, in through here. Give myself that that shape underneath this eye, like this. And then I'm definitely going to add some around the eye itself. So I just like to progressively get paint these colors on here, so that way it allows me the opportunity, every time I go for a lighter tone, I can put it in a smaller spot, and it allows me to get this great dimensional element on these objects without having to put tons and tons of detail. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and my peachy color to put just a little kind of accent of a lighter tone right in through here, and maybe a touch on that nose just to give it a little. I'm picking up my light brown now, that was too much. Give it just a little bit. I do need a little tiny mouth too, so I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black just to give myself just a little a little something down at that bottom without going too much. Picking up some my light peach with a little bit of white right now. Just give myself a little bit more in through here. I think I need to pull that nose down just a little bit more. Black is going on my brush. They have these like square kind of black. There we go. That's looking pretty good. They can almost have these real dramatic kind of color patterns around the nose and the eyes, and I think it has something to do with male versus female, but I'm not entirely sure, so I'm not going to pretend like I know the rules on the color patterns, but this one I definitely know has, that's cute. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of this lightness, go right there. The antlers are pretty good. You could put a little bit of that lightness wherever you want to, maybe on these tips. And then I'm just going to put a tiny bit of this highlight color in the, oh, that's so cute. I need to get rid of some of my chalk in through here. There we go. A little bit of water on my brush, got rid of that chalk. I'm going to put a little bit of this highlight on this tree in through here, just on this base. And of course, you could do anything you wanted. I'm going into some burnt umber, just to get wherever you feel that you're going to be able to see the trunk, as opposed to it's not going to be hidden by your flowers. Just make sure that you have a good tone on it. So you can flip back and forth between any of your light brown to your dark brown, just to give yourself that little, almost little bit of a highlight from that light source. That's looking pretty good. I think that's all I'm going to do for that. And then you can fiddle with it all you want. I might add a little bit more lightness on this, on the bridge of the nose, just so we can see it just a little bit more. There we go. And then we're going to be using, we're going to use our large bristle brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this small round brush away and make any little adjustments that you want. Just picked up a little bit of white with my light brown. Make any little adjustments that you want, and then take out your large bristle brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our blossoming tree. I'm using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are red, purple, the fluorescent purple, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making these beautiful pink blossoms in a nice impressionistic type of way, which is going to be dotting. I want them darker on the left-hand side and a little bit lighter on the right-hand side, but I'm going to start with what's going to be a magenta type of a color. So I'm going to use my small round brush to pre-mix a color here, which I have already done on my palette. This is my magenta color that I'm going for. How I got to this is red and purple. So I can take my red and I can take my purple. I would say maybe about equal parts of both and just mix them together. Well, maybe a little bit more purple than that. I guess the red is a little bit more overpowering. There we go. And they create this beautiful magenta color, which is going to be a nice dark base for my pink flowers, my pink blossoms on the tree. Of course, you could do any color that you want, but this is where I'm going to start. So that's going to be my magenta color. I'm going to use my large brush, dip it in that magenta, and I'm going to start over on the left-hand side. So this way I can work my way towards the right. And as I'm doing this, I don't need to paint over all of that first layer of the green and the brown that I did. This is just a blossoms that are intermingled with the leaves that are growing on the tree. So when you're doing it, if you just kind of keep those thoughts in mind, like that you're not looking to paint the whole thing over again, you're just looking to add little dark pink blossoms, that can kind of steer your hand into creating a more believable type of creation, as opposed to just blobbing it all on and thinking, well, this has got to look like blossoms if I've got the right color. So just know, just in your head think, oh, it's far away. These are just tiny little flowers that are growing in the midst of the green leaves, and you can just kind of dot it accordingly. So now that I've got a good layer on there, and I've got my little blossoms are on all of the areas that I want them to be. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to start adding some lighter colors of the blossoms. So that way I've got my transition into where the light source is. So this looks good. I feel like I've got enough on in through there and we can see it. It's pretty dominant. That's looking pretty good. So now I'm gonna use my magenta and add a tiny bit of white to it. So you could pre-mix it on your palette. You could just kind of roll it around with a little bit of that magenta, and you're going to create this nice light color, this light pink color. And I'm just going to take it and start dotting it towards that right hand side. If this is not a color that speaks to you, you could also make a light red color. So I'm going to just demonstrate before I go any farther so you could see the difference between the two. So I could take just red and add white to it, giving me a light red color, but you want it to be definitely lighter than your magenta. So this can be, you can call it pink if you want to. My fire red makes kind of like a light yellow as opposed to a super duper pink. So you could use something like this and use this as your highlight color. Let me just put a tiny bit on my brush so you can see the difference. So this would give you a more kind of different, like a more yellowy type, not yellowy, but a less purpley type of pink to go on top. So really whatever color you want will work. It's just wherever your personal preference is. I kind of like that color over on the right hand side, but the magenta light over on the left hand side. So I'm going to use both, but you can of course use whatever is speaking to you. Yeah, this magenta light, this light one with the magenta looks good on the left hand side, and then the light red looks good on the right hand side. So, you know, again, just kind of do whatever speaks to you. I'm going to put these little clusters of them on here. And again, if you ever do too much, you can certainly back it off with, you know, go back into those original colors. I want this pretty heavy over here on this right hand side with some little pops of those greens through it, but definitely want to add more in through here. I leave little peekaboo spots of my branches too, so that way it speaks to that having some good dimension to it. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint on my brush, just an itty bitty bit, give myself just this couple little extra pops of brightness over here on this right hand side. And I didn't wash my brush, of course, so this is just going to give me these little edges closest to the light source that are going to be a little more luminescent. And of course, make yours as bright or as soft as you want it to be. Once you've got this done, we're going to actually be using the fan brush for the next step. I'm going back into my magenta because I feel like I want a little more up here. So again, make yours whatever type of blossoming tree that you want. And then when you're all done, you can put this this large brush away. Oh, I want some in here too. Take out your fan brush, and I'm thinking that's pretty good. Get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the ground. I'm going to use my fan brush. The colors I'm using are black, green, fluorescent purple, white, maybe some of that magenta, maybe some yellow, and if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I'll call them out as I use them. So what I'm going to first do, after I get rid of my chalk mark here, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting a shadow underneath my deer. I'm going to put a shadow probably behind my tree as well. And then I'm just going to be having fun with making flowers and grass. So I'm going to be using this to create some very impressionistic, just kind of dabbing dots. I'll be pulling it up for some grass. I'm going to make these little like almost lavender / lupin type of impressionistic purpley flowers. You can really just make all, you know, dots if you want to. I'll show you a couple of different techniques, and then you have fun with whatever you'd like to do. So first I'm going to put my shadow on underneath here. I'm going to use a teeny tiny bit of black paint just on the corner of my brush. I'm going to start right at the base of those legs. My light source is somewhere over there, so I'm going to kind of just lightly kind of, I have too much paint on my brush, pull this back or kind of dot it back in a diagonal type of a way. I want to be able to kind of see some of that grass texture underneath there. So if yours is just solid black at this point, you could just dip your brush a little bit in water in order to just kind of get yourself the ability to have it a little bit transparent, or maybe a little bit where you can put some texture on in through there. I mean, this is a shadow on top of grass. So, and if you want it long, you can bring that shadow back really long. The longer it is, the lower that light source looks. So I'm just going to kind of pull it back into the grass just a little bit in through here. And then if you wanted to put one behind your tree, again, just a teeny tiny bit of black paint, just kind of tapping it on that grass, put a little bit more water on my brush just to kind of, so I don't lose all of those elements of whatever texture I had done underneath. I feel like I want to pull this just back just a little bit further. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building all of my flowers and stuff. I do have dark paint on my brush right now, so before I start making the lighter flowers, I want to put any darkness in that's going to make me happy. So I'm going to start with black paint, and I want some more little speckles of black back in through here to kind of give myself a little bit more dimension. So I'm going to kind of find where I already see some dark areas, and then I'm just kind of tapping in this little additional pieces of darkness. So that's going to give me some real neat little pockets in the flower beds or in this wild grass type of area. I definitely want some darkness down at the bottom of the canvas, just so it feels like we're just kind of walking, or kind of, you know, maybe we're surprising this deer, and we're really, you know, immersed in this wild grass type of stuff. So that's looking pretty good. I got some good dark stuff in through there, maybe a little bit more over in through here. That'll give me some good areas to put some brighter flowers. So now I have black on my brush. I don't want it on my brush as I'm going towards those light flowers. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And again, you could make this as bright or as dark as you want it. I'm going to go for some real vibrancy up and through here, or lightness. You could pull in any light colors you want. I'm going to start with white and my magenta on my brush, so white and a little bit of magenta. And I'm scared I have too much paint on my brush. I just tapped it off on my paper towel. So again, any colors you want to make this into this spring meadow, morning meadow. I just picked up white plus my light pink, white plus my magenta, anything that you want. I'm just going for these little extra bits of flowers in through here, maybe some of my purple, again, any colors that you want. So I'm going to be using white, my fluorescent purple, my magenta, maybe my light red, any colors that's going to bring my painterly eye nice and happy is where I'm headed. I want this upper part to be pretty light, so lots of white up and through here, maybe even some white and yellow to put a little sunshine on the grass if you want it. But again, wherever you want to take it is up to you. I definitely want some light stuff right on that edge in through there, like that sunshine is kind of hitting it. That looks pretty. And then I'm going to pick up some of my purple, my fluorescent purple. And again, I'm trying not to make a mess, so and make it all too confusing and have too much information. So right now I've got some of my purple, my fluorescent purple, plus a touch of white on my brush. So I'm kind of finding some of these areas that were already purple, the darker purple, and I can just tap this on top of them. So that's gonna allow me to utilize what we did in the first round and just amp it up with a little bit more vibrancy to it. So I've got purple over here, so I can just take my my fluorescent purple and add little polka dots here and there on top of that. I've got a little bit of that white on my brush. So again, this is just kind of adding to what I already had, only making it have a little bit more dimension to it. I can take these and bring them right around in through here. I see that there was a little bit of purple back there, so just adding additional little speckles. You can go on top of that shadow a little bit if you wanted to, but right now I'm just kind of looking for those purple spots because I have, oh, I just noticed I have black on my brush. That can get me into danger zone. I'm washing and drying my brush. Don't know where that came from, but we're just going to wash it off. I'm picking back up some of that fluorescent purple. In through here's where I'm going to start making some of these little fun flowers. These are coming close to us. The closer at the bottom of the canvas, the more I'm going to start to put a little bit more detail. So again, I'm looking for some of these purple spots, and I'm bringing the darker purple that we ended up earlier. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of bringing these up almost in this like little curved type of manner. And you can have as many or as few as you want, but again, kind of following what you can see that you did the first time. That's going to help you to just naturally put them in believable spots because you have a darker layer that you did the first time, and now you're putting on an additional layer that's maybe a little bit lighter and brighter. So that'll make it look nice and natural. So that's looking pretty good in through there. I feel like I want a couple more purple dots here, a couple more over here. So that's looking pretty good for the first pass on the purple. Maybe I want a little bit over here by this tree. There we go. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just wash and dry my brush. I want to put some of that grass in, and then we'll come back with a final layer of the of those little purple flowers. I'm going to pick up, I think I'm going to go green and yellow. Actually, I'm going to make a light green. Green, yellow, and white. I'm just going to kind of pre-mix just a little bit of a light green on my palette here with green, yellow, and white. You could use them all at the same time if you wanted to. I just want to add a little bit of a more luminescent kind of colored grass up and through here. And again, I'm just kind of looking for where I already had those green areas and just kind of tapping this in, putting a couple in between those legs so we don't miss that. And then as I'm working my way back towards the viewer, I'll stop using that light green and I'll use more the darker tones, the green oxide. So this is looking pretty good in through here, a little bit maybe over on this side, there we go. And then now I'm going to just start picking up my green oxide on my dirty brush. And again, just kind of working my way back. Now I'm making grass now, not flowers. So instead of doing that dotty sideways type of brush stroke, now I'm going to start kind of pulling it up, and this is going to make little pieces of grass. So this is just a little pull up with my brush. So this is one of those times where you can use one brush for multiple tasks. So this is just giving me these little tiny pieces of grass, and as I move down the canvas, I can pull them up further or longer, and this is going to give me more grass-like look as opposed to flower look. And I can put them right in between those flowers. Again, I'm not terribly concerned about it being perfect or messy or not messy. I can put it right in front of or on top of some of those dark areas because I know that my green is transparent, so it will see those darker colors underneath it. And then this is looking pretty good. As I'm coming down towards the bottom, I can start pulling up these longer grassy pieces in between the flowers. You can even overlap it on the flowers. Again, wherever your comfort zone is. Down here at the bottom, I'm just going to kind of pull these up even more like this. Again, this is going to make it look like it's closer to the viewer. And if you felt that, especially on this bottom here, that you wanted to add additional colors to it, feel free to do that. If you wanted, use a different brush, you could certainly do that as well. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to go in for my bright flowers now, and then if I feel like I want to do more on this grass, I certainly will, but I'm thinking that it's looking pretty good right now. So I'm gonna wash and dry my brush and just pop in some highlights on these purple flowers. So washing and drying my brush. I'm gonna use, I think on the far away ones, I'm gonna use a highlight of my magenta and white. And then when I come towards the back, I'll use purple and white. So this is the magenta and white. So this has that little bit of red in it. And then I can, these ones up here don't really matter. It's where you start to get closer to the viewer that it's going to matter a little bit more. So maybe you can see a couple of these guys in through here. Maybe not. If you can, great. If not, no worries. Maybe you make it look like, you know, a different kind of flower. It's going to be up to you. I think I want a couple little ones in through here. So again, I'm just kind of using the side of my brush this way to give me this really messy kind of floral type of assembly. That's a little bit too bright for me, so I'm going to pick up some of that purple, the fluorescent purple. So that's pretty good. And I'm thinking that that's good for that brightest tone that I'm going to use. So I'm actually going to wash my brush because I feel like I have too much white on it. And then I'm going to go for my purple, fluorescent purple plus a tiny bit of white paint on my brush. And you're going to start to see how this is going to really start to take shape on these guys back here. So again, I'm not doing anything super fancy, just kind of utilizing this carefree way that this type of brush can be used. I think it's just a matter of not making it look super systematic. So as you're going through it, if you're finding that you're enjoying the chaotic nature that it's creating, awesome. Then you're working it the way that it works visually for you. But if you're going through this and you're like, it's just not, I'm not able to get these little flowers to curl over the way that I want them to, then maybe switch to the small brush, your small round brush, and you can create this with just a dotting type of effect with your small round brush. So I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I might want just a little bit more highlight just on these big guys right here, and then you can fiddle with it as much as you want. We're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this fan brush away, take out a small detail brush, if you can ever stop flowering. So that's one thing I have a hard time doing, is stopping making little flowers, especially in a carefree, wild setting like this, wild scenery, because it just makes me happy. All right, so we're going to put this brush away, take out our small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so I forgot to finish my grass. So I'm back on the same step. So I was getting done the flowers and I'm like, something's missing, it's not light enough. I wanted to do more highlights on this grass part in through here, so I wanted you to see how I did it. So I'm back with my fan brush. I'm going to be using green, yellow, and white. So I have that light green color that I created for the upper area. You can use a little bit of that for these, for highlights on these pieces as they're coming towards the bottom of the canvas. And again, I'm using more of a pull-up type of brush stroke as I'm going through these pieces of grass, as opposed to the dotting that I did at the top or that I was doing with the flowers. So I wanted to, and you could do pull up or pull down, whatever is more, comfortable to you and creates the effect that that works for you. And then I'm going to put some in through these little areas down in through here. And I feel that, as you're doing these type of kind of chaotic natural sceneries, just keeping your brain straight as to what is what. I've got my grass going on. I'm going to pick up some of my green oxide right now. I definitely want there to be highlights everywhere so I can have dimension, but it doesn't have to be, photorealistic. I don't need to make everything super duper bright and everything having its own little way about it. I feel like I want more kind of grass in through here and here. I just feel like this needed to be just a little extra to give me all of this life throughout this grass, especially over in through here and maybe back in these little areas over here. And then I'm thinking that's making my painterly eye happy. Maybe just a couple more longer pieces down at this bottom. And you can put them behind the flowers, in front of the flowers, wherever it works out for you. And then once you've got this done, yeah, see, we just need a little extra grass. Give us that final little touch. And then once you've got this done, if you can get it done, if you don't forget anything like I did, once you've got it done, we are going to use this our small brush for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I'm going to use my number 4 round. I'm going to sign mine in the bottom left with black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name, or you can use the date, you can use a symbol, you can mark this however you would like, because it's your painting and you get to give it whatever kind of identifying mark works for you. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a beautiful wilderness animal, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.